or if it's the wacky year that it's been, where offensively it's been pretty consistent the last couple of weeks, and really since that Pittsburgh game almost, 2 months ago at this point. I don't trust this team yet. Despite what we saw on Sunday against Minnesota, a 33-10 whooping of the Minnesota Vikings on the road. You get back on track the week prior with a win. But I just can't find it within myself right now to just say, yeah, I fully trust this Green Bay Packers team. I fully believe they are going to win on Sunday. And when I hear people a lot smarter than me, like Jason Wilde, say, I absolutely do not see a way the Packers lose this game, that makes me even more nervous. Because there's no such thing, and I've said this every episode for the last 2 months, there's no such thing as a sure thing in the NFL. And Sunday feels like anything but a sure thing to me. Now, I'm not saying the Packers get dominated or they get blown out. I just think it's going to be a little bit too close for comfort. I think the odds are the Packers win, and they get in, and whatever happens once you get in is fun and dandy. But I just don't feel as confident as others do. And that's not like me, right? Like, I'm the most roller coastery Packers fan ever. Usually, when we get high, right? And I'm not talking about weed. I'm just saying when we get high on the roller coaster, two wins in a row, you would think my reaction naturally would be, oh, yeah, no problem. Chicago, we own them. Jordan Love's assumed ownership. We got this. Home field. 325. Jim Nantz on the call, right? Like, this is all green and gold. I wish that's how I was feeling. But 4 days out, I'm not feeling that way. I'm feeling more like, we've been here before. Second annual win in your in game. First one didn't go very well. How's it, like I don't know. I wish I was feeling better. All right, Wooly, now that you've fixed all my struggles, I want to pull you in on this because I'm curious where you're at, too, as a Packers fan. Like, I wish I felt better about this. I'm excited for the game, of course. Super excited about everything we've got going on in Green Bay, which I'll tell you more about on Friday, aside from our normal Green Bay game day. But where are you at, dude? Like, are you feeling as nervous as I am? Are you feeling like this is a no-brainer win for the Packers? Where's your head at as it stands?
I mean, I can't take any game for granted this season as a Packers fan. They showed us that all season. So,
You're right.
I in no way feel that way. And at the end of the day, they're one game better than the Bears. Like, they are not head and shoulders better than this team, right?
No.
I mean, I think the Bears' defense has truly come on towards the end of the year. I really wanted to push back and say that was just like they're frauds, they're playing bad teams. Their defense has been pretty dominant.
They have a good defense.
Montez Sweat seems to have changed things there. I mean, I think it's going to be a really good game, and I think it's going to be entertaining. I'm really glad it got this primetime spot. I thought maybe there'd be some other games that would go over it. I really thought it maybe had a chance to be Sunday Night Football. But at the end of the day,
I did too.
I think it's going to be a great game, but I think it's going to be a close game. And I think 3.5 point spread? 3 point
yeah,
spread?
Packers are 3.5 point favorites.
As home favorites? Yeah, I mean, that feels right. And it says
well,
a lot about
what do you
both
get
teams.
for home field? Is it 3 or 2?
Well, traditionally, I think they've always said it's 3 points, though. I think since COVID, they kind of changed where it's more of like a 1 or 2 point usually. And it also depends on the field, like whether it's Lambeau or whether it's just, like Raymond James Stadium where the Buccaneers play. Like, it's, it changes based off, like, that home field specifically.
Was there a reason Raymond James Stadium was the one that came to mind?
You may see a patch on the side of my hat that says ReliaQuest Bowl. So Raymond James may be fresh in my mind.
I've also been there, actually.
Really?
That's the only other NFL stadium besides Lambeau I've ever been to.
Oh.
What'd you think?
It's all right.
Did you go to the ship?
I did walk by the pirate ship.
Yep.
You couldn't go up into the pirate ship. I was very disappointed.
They wouldn't let you?
Could you try? There was a man there just kind of like guarding the entrance, and I didn't want to ask.
Oh, I think you can ask.
Yeah.
I mean, they might say no, but anyway.
It didn't seem that worthwhile.
That's neither here nor there. So I'm curious where you're at. If you're watching along live, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, you can tweet us, comment on Facebook, comment on YouTube. Where are you at? Like, are you feeling confident about the Green Bay Packers coming up on Sunday? Because I wish I felt better about it. And I'm lacking a little confidence. And I said this on the show last week in the middle of our week off when we did our quick episode between the Vikings game and the week prior. And I kind of said, confidence is low, but vibes are high. and I think I'm sticking with that. Confidence is pretty low because I just don't really have expectations throughout this season anymore. But the vibes are high because you have answers to a lot of the questions you were curious about. And the youth movement is coming along a lot faster than maybe you anticipated at the beginning of the season. As it stands right now, you think, and well, really, you don't think. You know Jordan Love's your franchise quarterback, at least for the foreseeable future. You know a bunch of these young pass catchers have really bright futures. How about Bo Melton this past week, by the way, huh? Raise your hand if you knew who Bo Melton was like 3 weeks ago. Because I'd heard the name in training camp, and then I haven't thought about him since he got cut and put on the practice squad. And then he comes out on Sunday Night Football in a national spotlight as 6 catches for 105 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that is an amazing story. But that's not at all the first time we've heard that story for the Green Bay Packers this year. Now, Jayden Reed, obviously a little bit different. He's a day 2 NFL draft pick, but he just broke Sterling Sharp's rookie record for most receptions in a season by a Green Bay Packer. That's ridiculous. I don't think we anticipated that. We maybe expected him to have a fun role as like a punt returner, but to be the leading receiver on this team? As high as I was on him? I didn't see that coming. Breaking records? Dontavian Wicks. He didn't practice for a majority of training camp. And then he came on and was terrific. In spring ball, he missed all of it with an injury. And then he came on and showed, wow, they might have something with him. Romeo Doubs has made a year 2 jump. The one name that I think we were most confident in entering the season in that position group was Christian Watson, who's missed most of the season. So to see the way the pass catchers have developed is actually complimentary of Jordan Love and how great he's been. And he was absolutely lights out on Sunday night against Minnesota, and he's really been lights out the second half of the season. I'm not going to spew propaganda and regurgitate propaganda about Jordan Love that you've seen on social media all week, but I'm going to regurgitate propaganda that you've seen on social media all week. Jordan Love, since the Pittsburgh game, I think 8 weeks ago it was, and this is from my friend Zach Jacobson of 24/7 Sports, first in total touchdowns, third in passing yards, tied second in big-time throws. I don't know how you value that, but nonetheless, I'll take it. It's propaganda. Second in passer rating, and tied for first in first downs in the league since the Pittsburgh game on November 12th. That's how good Jordan Love's been. That's 8 games. And Zach writes a whole story for that over at 24/7 Sports that you should go check out. It's a good read from him talking about just how good Jordan Love has been and just how efficient and effective he's been. So it makes me laugh that before the season, Ryan, and I think you were with me when we talked about this before the season, was, Jordan Love's probably the worst quarterback in the NFC North. Like, whatever, right? We know Justin Fields isn't very good, but we assume he's better than him. And then we knew Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins were good quarterbacks, or at least mediocre quarterbacks. It's Week 18, and I'm going to ask the question, and I legitimately mean it. If you had a pick of any quarterback in the NFC North, are you picking Jordan Love?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you.
So going forward, like franchise quarterback, like guy you're going to sign an extension to?
Yes.
I would for the reason that I do think he still has room to grow, and I think that he's already shown that he can be what Kirk Cousins is, likely. So I think based off that, I think he could be better than Jared Goff, and I think there's no certainty around the Bears quarterback position.
No.
So for that reason, you have to take Jordan Love, in my opinion.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. Like, I definitely think you could make the case right now Jordan Love's the best quarterback in the NFC North. Now, I feel bad for Kirk Cousins, obviously sidelined with that Achilles injury. However, I don't feel very bad for Kirk Cousins after watching him rip his tarp off and air that horn at US Bank Stadium on Sunday night. Like, he's a funny dude. I actually like Kirk Cousins. But seeing him with his shirt off on Sunday Night Football, not a good way to start that game off, in my opinion. So I don't feel bad for saying I think Jordan Love is probably a better quarterback than him, certainly long term, but as it stands right now. So Jordan Love, I'm all in. Really impressed with him. He is the part about Sunday against the Bears that I am the most confident in. However, you still got the Packers defense, and you've still got a bunch of situations going on within the Packers defense. Of course, Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator, has he lost the locker room. Of course, Devondre Campbell tweeting things again today. And, of course, Jaire Alexander, the star cornerback, or at least the one-time star quarterback for the Green Bay Packers that has missed the majority of the season with various injuries. And last week's one-game suspension. The game in which he's suspended in, the Packers hold, albeit a rookie quarterback who played very poorly and was replaced, the opposing offense to 10 points. Carrington Valentine, Corey Valentine. Nice games for them. Valentine with an early interception. Jaire's a tricky situation. I think you're better with him on the field. But it didn't look that way in Carolina. And I'm not going to compare Jaron Hall to Bryce Young, right? Those are two very different quarterbacks with different talent levels. But the way Bryce Young cut up the Packers defense with Jaire Alexander on the field versus what the Packers defense was able to do against Jaron Hall, it's worth thinking about. I'm not saying bench him. I mean, if he's healthy and good to go, I say start him. But, I don't know. I just don't know what to do with him. It's a very tricky situation. So, one more thing before we bring Jim Rutledge in. The word rivalries come up a lot this week. Saw Aaron Rodgers, when he wasn't talking about Jimmy Kimmel in the Epstein list, decided to comment on the rivalry and how it was a lack of a rivalry at this point because the Bears can't beat the Packers. Matt LaFleur's never lost the Bears. Jordan Love obviously 1-0 against the Bears. It's been ownership the last decade or so. We'd completely change our mind on that if the Bears win on Sunday. Like this rivalry is alive and well. If Justin Fields comes into Lambeau Field and beats Jordan Love, and for the second year straight the Packers fail in Week 18, I don't think that happens, but we certainly change our tune on that if that happens. So I don't know if this is much of a rivalry. We'll ask Jim Rutledge about that coming up next. We're also going to have our second. Can I call it annual? Technically, it is a new year.
I guess. I don't know. It just seems wrong.
But I imagine in September we will probably have another respectful conversation around the Bears. So
very respectful, as always.
Always respectful. Always respectful with Jimmy. I'm sure we won't yell at all. All right, it's Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf. We'll take a break. When we come back, Jim Rutledge joins us. All right, as Jim Rutledge and Matty Hayes and everybody and their crew shuffle into the studio, I'll tell you about Green Bay Game Day coming up on Sunday from Lambeau Field. Ahead of Bears-Packers, join me, Kyle Wallace, Tori Lowe, Jason Wilde, Rob Demovsky, all with you for Green Bay Game Day, previewing Packers-Bears beginning at noon on 620 WTMJ, 94.5 ESPN Milwaukee, and 100.5 ESPN in Madison. It's a fun one. Winning in, losing you're likely out. Justin Fields might be able to rehash the rivalry if he plays a good game on Sunday. So join us for Green Bay Game Day beginning at noon on YouTube and all those stations I just mentioned. All right, let's chit-chat respectfully with our guy, Jim Rutledge. Jimmy.
Yeah.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good. It's a good week. It's a good week.
How are you feeling about all this?
You guys all say it's an act of reverse psychology. I feel fine with the whole thing. This game, it means everything for the Green Bay Packers because you own the Bears. Your playoffs are on the line. This season's success factor as far as how you're going to feel as a Packer fan, and that's how you define success, if this season ends at home with a loss to the team you own, then it's gonna suck all off season, unquestionably.
Well, that's because I work with you. But yeah, go on.
But in general, like that's gonna sting. Which is why I get the point of like it's not a rivalry because the Packers always win, but it is a rivalry in the idea that the second the Bears win something, it automatically triggers Packer fans. Like when the Bears ended the Packers season with Mitch Trubisky at Lambeau Field or at Soldier Field, the Bears won the division. They also officially eliminated the Packers. Now the Packers were trying to make a run similar to they made this year. They fell a little bit short, but it was Eddie Jackson that picked off Aaron Rodgers at Soldier Field. Mitch Trubisky and the Bears sealed the division in Matt Nagy's first year. That was a hostile time. That was not that long ago. All it takes is for one key victory for this thing to be cranked all the way back up. But Chicago hasn't held up the end of their bargain on this.
No, for sure. So I Is it like a house money game for you?
Yes.
Is that the way you're viewing it?
So
because if we lose, that's okay. You're already eliminated from the playoffs.
And I said this before, that with this season, the Bears are setting themselves up to be next year's Lions, or the Lions of this year. The Bears are a team that went, well, the Bears started the season 0-4. They have an opportunity. Well, they've automatically doubled their victories from last year.
Yeah.
They have a roster that has plenty of cap space. It is drastically improved from a team that won 3 games a year before as far as roster building. They tore the whole thing down like the Lions, tore down to the studs. They've rebuilt. They have 7 wins. They might end up with the exact same record. They might end up with the same damn season as the Lions, where you end your year beating the Packers. But regardless, they also have, through a masterful trade, now that it all has to be executed, but it's one of the best trades in NFL history, where the Bears got DJ Moore, Darnell Wright, Tyreek Stevenson, who was just named Defensive Player of the Week in the NFL, and Darnell Wright is a starting right tackle for the entire season, and DJ Moore is a Pro Bowl, maybe all-pro wide receiver. Plus, they got Carolina's first-round pick, which ended up being number 1 overall, which puts the Bears in a driver's seat to get Caleb Williams or a massive haul. Either one of those, the Bears are positioned to put themselves in a real playoff conversation. Now, next year, these games for the Bears, I'll say this now, these games for Bears fans matter a lot next year. But this year, it doesn't matter much. The Packers aren't going to go on some magical run to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And so get in and win a game or two, whatever, good for you. It doesn't change the Bears' trajectory, because the last part of this, the Bears have owned, and I'm not ripping the Packers on this. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers has been great, but the Bears have owned themselves more than anyone else has owned them. There has not been
that we can agree on.
There has not been many seasons. There has not been many seasons where the Bears have been like, oh, they're an 8-win team, and if they could just beat the Packers, they'll get into the playoffs. No, it's either they're winning the division or they're crap.
Yeah.
And there is no in between. And so, yes, Aaron Rodgers was an amazing quarterback, and the Packers owned the division during that time. But Chicago and Detroit never really held up their end of the bargain as far as building rosters that would make this rivalry interesting.
No, it was Minnesota and Green Bay for a long time. But I guess I didn't realize that. But now that I think back, you're totally right. It's either like the Bears are really good or they stink.
Yep.
Why is that?
I have no idea. Well, because they fired Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith had a .600 winning percentage when he was fired. And they thought they could do better.
And he was fired when? Like 2012?
They won 10 games as well. I could have been 2012. I know that after they fired him, they brought in Mark Trestman, a disaster. Then they brought in John Fox.
Oh, it might have been earlier than 2012. Yeah, I forgot
and
about
then another
John Fox,
disaster.
yeah.
And then they brought in Nagy, who had one good year. And Nagy was actually Nagy, I guess, kind of disproved this, because they won 13 games, I believe. Then they won 8-8, 8-8, and 8-9.
Chiefs fans hate him, I think.
He's not a good offensive mind. He might be a good – I think he's a QB coach that really isn't an offensive coordinator, and definitely not a head coach.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. All right, so the big Bears question we have to dive into before we talk about this game a little bit more in depth. But what the hell do you do with Justin Fields?
I don't know. I don't know. I'll say it like this. So, one – I am a huge Justin Fields fan. Everything that Packer fans would love about Jordan Love off the field, Justin Fields is that. I mean, there was an off-the-record article written by ESPN, Courtney Cronin, and I forgot who else wrote it with her. And the article was great. And Jason Wilde pointed this out, that the fact that all these players off the record were like, Justin is our guy. Like, they were willing, like, they didn't have to put their name out and say, like, and say nice things about him. They were saying nice things about him regardless of whether it was held to them or not. Mm-hmm. And Justin Fields, that locker room is his. He busts his ass. He works hard. He's the all the cliches. First one in, last one out. And if you're a football player and you see Justin shaking off a blitzing linebacker and then the D tackle like he did against Atlanta, and then he runs 15 yards to get the first down, and he's getting knocked over all over the field. He's getting knocked around. He's always coming back up. He's always finishing these games unless he's broken something. He's playing hard. So he plays through injury. He plays through being hurt. He carries the off team offensively at times. And he's really got 2 consistent offensive weapons in DJ Moore and Cole Kmet, and then that's kind of it. And I think the players see that, and they see a guy who's going to, quote-unquote, battle with them, and he's the leader of that team. They're going to play hard to try to keep his job. Now, everything that I've said about Jordan Love, I have to hold true to Justin Fields from my perspective of the Bears now have a decision to make with Justin Fields, because maybe they can get him to sign a Jordan Love type deal where it's, hey, let's sign a deal here where it's 2 years, $30 million. so we'll buy out your last deal. The Bears could kick the can down the road. If they traded the first overall pick, they probably get 2-3 first-rounders for it. They can make this decision next year. They'll have 2 first-rounders the following year that they can move up for and move around and get a quarterback. So they could kick the can down the road. But the other part of it is if you have to pay this – let's assume Justin's going to say, no, I don't want that deal because he's played more. He established more in his first 3 years than Jordan Love in his first 3 years, so it's unlikely that he would take that deal. So let's say he doesn't want that deal and the Bears need to make a decision. Well, you have to immediately pay Justin Fields, which is hard for any quarterback. It's the same thing. This is why this Packer game is important for Jordan Love and the Packers. They have likely one season, this season, to have a quarterback on a quote-unquote rookie deal.
Yeah.
This is their year to sneak by and surprise everyone. Immediately they have to pay Jordan Love, and then the clock starts. It reminds me a lot of what Jordan Love was this year, and what they'll have with this group is Russell Wilson, but you have to take Russell Wilson with Seattle, but in Seattle year 3 or 4 with Russell when he got paid.
Right.
And so Russell was good until you had to start paying everyone. Like, you'll have time with Jordan because you don't have to pay these other guys, but within 3 years you're going to have to start paying all these guys plus Jordan, and then your window gets really tight.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with Chicago to Caleb Williams. If you draft Caleb Williams, you're going to pay him a deal for 4 years, $40 million. If the Bears extend Justin Fields, as we know this with Jordan Love, you're going to be paying that quarterback $40 million a year. So you could have a number 1 overall pick who's being viewed as the top prospect since Joe Burrow or Trevor Lawrence, and you pay him on a rookie scale deal, and you pay him $10 million a year over 4 years, or do you pay a quarterback who is progressing in Fields $40 million a year, and now all of a sudden you can't hold together a roster. It's the same thing the Packers are going to face immediately with Jordan Love, which still goes back to the idea of even if he's a fine quarterback, he's got to be damn near elite to make it worthwhile to not add a player during Aaron Rodgers' premier prime run with the Packers to go win a Super Bowl. Instead, you added a guy that you were not able to take full advantage of his contract with by playing him on his rookie deal.
Yeah, all good points. So I think the Justin Fields thing is just – it's wild because I think when we had our first annual, we've decided this is annual since it's the new year, Respectful Bears chat, we were kind of in that midst of that losing streak. Like, vibes were not high for the Bears.
No.
And now Justin Fields has seemingly turned it around, at least to a point.
He's improved every single year he's had in the league. His efficiency numbers have gone up. If you look at his stats, I think Wildy talked about it today. I think some people are forgetting with his touchdowns and his passing yards, he missed 4 games. So you have to look more at his efficiency, completion percentage, and QB ratings
rather
are
than
both
the actual
up
numbers.
because he missed time, and so his rushing numbers are down. His passing numbers are still higher than the year before, but he missed 4 games this year.
It's a scenario that I don't really remember, right? Like, you might have a guy here, but you also have nothing surefire in the NFL, especially in the draft.
Right.
But you've got what you just said, right? The best prospect since Lawrence or Burrow.
And
Caleb
both
Williams.
those guys have turned out to be, either elite or very good quarterbacks.
Right, very good at the least,
yes.
right? And you can't knock somebody for being injury-prone like Burrow. So
I'll say this.
What do you want to do?
I don't know, man, because like I said, I love Fields. He's really fun to root for.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. I know Wildy shared a story about how Fields was wearing the Jeff Dickerson hoodie, and he just got to Chicago when Dickerson was there. So Fields is everything you want from a quarterback on and off the field. I mean, as far as like
off.
Right, but I mean, like, he throws.
Good teammate.
Right. And the issue I have with Fields, and this is the trickier part, I don't think Getsy's offense, which is the Packers' offense, fits Justin Fields, which is more of like a play action and then see it and rip it. That's not his strength. His strength is I will be a playmaker. He makes more plays per game, probably than most NFL quarterbacks. It's just a matter he makes some boneheaded plays. If you watch him, and we all love the Jordan Love. I mean, Justin Fields is one of the most accurate deep ball throwers in the NFL. He throws an amazing ball. When he's screwing up, it's usually on like throwing to a spot. It's really honestly his screw ups are he's not throwing it when a guy is open. So he's making the play harder. That's the knock on Justin Fields. It's not that he can't put it on target most of the time. He'll airmail through a few throws. It's when a guy is open quickly, he still, because he's such a playmaker, doesn't just get the ball out of his hands. Jordan Love does. If a guy is open and it's let's say a 10-yard throw, Jordan Love's just going to let it rip. Justin will look down the field and maybe try to run and then go back and let it rip. And that's doesn't work in this offense. So the Getsy part of this makes it hard to evaluate Fields. But here's the thing I know for sure is that if they didn't have the first overall pick from Carolina, they would be keeping Justin Fields and building around him.
For sure.
And so that's the tricky part. And Justin Fields, by all accounts, especially since the reports came out, he's only played better since it. He's getting your second-round pick. So he's viewed valuable in this league. He'd be one of the highest quarterbacks traded at this point in their contract for a player ever. Because, I mean, Sam Darnold was traded, but there was picks involved, and he wasn't traded for a second rounder. And I forgot there was another player. Trey Lance was traded, and obviously not for a second rounder either.
Right, of course. And I think you and I talked about it last time as well, right? We both view change of scenery can be really positive for some guys.
Yep.
I think Justin Fields could be a prime example of that.
Well,
if he ends up in Atlanta, right? Like that could be a good fit for him.
So if Arthur Smith remains the coach in Atlanta, which is up in the air, he ran an offense with Ryan Tannehill.
I think that's unlikely, but nonetheless,
True, but he ran an offense with Ryan Tannehill. So Justin Fields running an offense, Justin Fields and Ryan Tannehill might be an apt comp. I mean, Fields is more athletic, but they are quarterbacks who can make plays with their legs. Mm-hmm. They're not elite passers. I mean, they can make elite throws, but they're not elite consistent passers. They're a little bit streaky on it, but they have elite arms. They're just not, maybe elite decision makers. However you want to go. You can't call Justin Fields an elite passer, but he makes some throws that arguably only 2-3 quarterbacks in the NFL can make.
I've seen some of those throws.
Yes, and he makes plays that really maybe only Lamar Jackson can make. He just doesn't make it consistently. Atlanta could take advantage of those more. Denver might look for a stopgap QB. That would be another one. Washington could be another one.
Yeah, that was a thought, too.
The Bears could get back their pick from Montez Sweat trade.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Which turned out to be a sweet deal for them.
By the way, wow. Yeah, sweet and sweat. I see what you did there. I guess you didn't really do anything there. I don't know what I'm talking about.
You did it, but that's all right.
No, that's okay. But no, Montez Sweat's been terrific. So your confidence for the Bears to win Sunday is low.
Yeah.
Is that because the Packers, you view them as a good team now?
Well, the Bears just don't beat the Packers. That's a big part of it. Like,
really?
What evidence do they just don't? I mean, remember when Mitch Trubisky, they were up at halftime.
I mean, look, I agree with you, Jim.
Yeah.
But I would also make the argument, like, the Raiders shouldn't have beat the Packers.
True.
They did.
Right.
In a national spotlight game like this one will be.
I'm going to watch this game, and I'm going to root for the Bears to win. I'm not putting any investment into it because, one, it doesn't affect their season either or. I guess it's only if Justin Fields goes out and balls out and throws 3 touchdowns and he just looks like the guy he did. Atlanta was a really good game for him.
Yeah.
If he carries that, especially Atlanta's got a top 10 defense, if he carries that to Green Bay and throws 3 touchdowns and 300 yards and looks like the guy, well, then maybe they've helps make a decision because McCaskies really want to beat the Packers. But there's really nothing that comes out of this game that's going to help or hurt the Bears. And so that's why I look at it. It's big for the Packers, but I just don't want to be in this position where I'm going to get extra mad the Bears don't end the Packers season when it's like, okay, the Packers aren't going anywhere, get in the playoffs or don't. I honestly think this last playoff spot shouldn't exist because I guess it's fun, but like these 9-8 football teams are not necessarily good football teams.
No.
They're up and down. The Packers are inconsistent. Because here's the point I am going to make, that if the Bears do beat the Packers, and this will preview for Rutledge Hamilton, Goody screwed his team over by not believing in it.
Yeah. Yeah,
if they didn't subtract,
if they didn't subtract players, I think that's a little far. I think he didn't necessarily have high expectations. Right,
he hedged his bets.
He didn't have super high expectations for this year,
and to the point of mid-season. I mean, this team they might win one more game if they have Douglas.
Yeah. No, you're
right.
And
then this game, this matters more for positioning in the playoffs than it does getting into the playoffs.
Dude, if they still had Rasul Douglas, that would make this Jaire Alexander situation even wackier, right? Because you then have Rasul, Valentine, who have both played really well together.
Yep.
What should the Packers do with Jaire? Do you have an opinion on this?
Does this even happen if Rasul's there? My understanding, and I'm not in the locker room and it reported, like he seemed like a leader.
He was.
Now I did hear stuff that maybe the Packers didn't like everything he was saying.
That's also true.
But that doesn't matter. Like I don't care what the coaches think. I care what the players think. And if he was keeping that players' locker room in check, and Jaire was not acting like an idiot, which it was stupid what he did against Carolina.
It was pretty funny though.
Come on,
it was pretty funny.
It was funny from the outside looking in, but really dumb.
Really dumb.
One of the dumbest things you've ever seen on a football field.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And then afterwards, just owning how stupid, like not even being aware how stupid it was.
Why would they say anything to me?
Right, and so like that part of it, Jaire, I think ideally, I just don't think the Packers will be able to move him. I think ideally they'd love to move him. That contract,
I don't know about that. I just think, and you can't guarantee it anymore. So maybe to your point, but if he could get back to the Jaire Alexander, or even close to that, 90% of that, you're happy with the investment.
Right, but who in this? And this gets back to the bigger part of it. It's the idea of, so the Bears didn't take Jalen Carter. And he had a hot start, but now the Bears have Darnell Wright, who has been a starter all year. Could be the best right tackle as far as a rookie in the draft.
Montez Sweat, so you shored that up.
Right, but then also they got because of what they did there, they were able to just kind of build out the route. They got Gervon Dexter, a D tackle who now has more production than Jalen Carter. But the point was Philadelphia could add Jalen Carter, who had, forget the off the field stuff, on the field motivational concerns like would he show up, would he be a guy that has a motor all year. Philadelphia's roster full of veterans and players who know how to win and know how to keep a locker room in check, he was fine there. Chicago, not that much older than Green Bay. Chicago also an incredibly young roster. And Chicago has more leaders than Green Bay does now, but we didn't know that. I mean, they had Edmonds and Edwards and in free agency, and now they've gotten and Sweat. Now they have more leadership in that locker room. But Green Bay, you have Rashawn Gary is a lead by example guy. He seems to be quiet. Jordan Love is a lead by example guy.
Kenny Clark, same thing.
So who in that room? I think for a guy like Jaire, you need someone. I just use the word like Charles Woodson, of someone who locks in that room and holds Jaire accountable. And the way the Packers like the team build, they like young players with a select group of veterans, but then you can't have a veteran who needs leadership from within the locker room. There needs to be someone in that locker room to tell Jaire, you screwed up. This is not funny. This is not cute. You screwed our team over. We almost lost that damn football game. You're a distraction, and you need to go back to playing football. And you weren't even that good that game.
No,
you need to go back to playing football how we know you can play football, or you need to get out of here. But who on that team, and it's not a knock on any of those players, it's the knock on team building. You have to add players to that team that are willing to step up and say no. Especially if it's not Joe Barry, which Joe Barry, that's not his personality either.
Right. The lack of veteran leadership is something we've pointed at all season, right? And as well as going back to the offensive side of the football, as well as that wide receiver room is played without the veteran presence, it still wouldn't hurt.
If you had Adam Thielen, you probably win one of those games throughout the
right. And I know you're using Charles Woodson as just an example. Then obviously you're not finding a Charles Woodson like the Packers did 15
but
plus years ago.
personality-wise.
But just like a veteran, a guy that's been around the block a few
right
times.
Now, this offseason, if there's a free agent safety, even Adrian Amos, like a guy with pelts on the wall. Who's a leader. Yeah, but a pelts on the wall leader type. I don't know who those free agents are, but clearly you have massive holes at safety. And
sure do.
You could fill one of those with a youngster and fill one of them with a vet, and it's just a guy who just knows how to lead and knows how to play football that can keep Jaire in check. Otherwise, if you just let Jaire come back and run amok, unless you're bringing in I'll use the name, he's not going anywhere, but like Vic Fangio type. Like Jim Leonard is a leader, but he's been a leader of men in college. And I'm not saying he couldn't lead, but it's different for Jim Leonard to come into and I know he played in the NFL. It's still different for Jim Leonard to come in, which is a massive jump. So, I mean, that doesn't usually happen. D coordinator college to D coordinator in the NFL is not a normal jump.
No.
Like, that's not what happens. Usually they're positional coaches or whatever. So, let's say you bring in Jim Leonard. That's still a big ask of him to lock in this locker room. You'd almost need to bring in either a D coordinator or some veteran players with pelts on the wall who say, I've done it.
Or both.
Which
I would not be mad about.
But otherwise, Jaire, I worry about him as a clubhouse guy.
Interesting. I think that's all fair criticism.
He's a very talented player, and I think if it wasn't for the contract, you could get pretty good picks from him. Maybe you still can.
You could. The injuries are obviously scary, too, where he missed 6 games, wasn't on IR for that shoulder injury, which is the second time he's had said shoulder injury.
So I did something with Chris Orr, former Badger, played for Carolina. He shared a story how a player was put on IR and wasn't allowed to play in the games more because of something they did in practice to a coach than, like, actually being injured. He shared that on Rutledge and Hamilton. And if you want to put
this was in the league?
This was in the league, Carolina. He didn't say who.
Okay.
But he said, we saw this guy. He was running. Like, he had an injury, but it was like he didn't need to go on IR, but they kind of just put him on IR to, like, suspend him. So then you had to miss some games.
I would know who this person is.
I don't know. He didn't say who it was. He did not tell us. I should have asked off the record, but then it got busy. But could that have been Jaire?
Well, he didn't get put on IR.
But, I mean, was he shadow suspended? Because he was practicing and not playing.
That's true. No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think that would have come out. But still, like,
no, because
apparently shadow suspensions are a thing that can happen in the league.
Interesting. I guess I didn't know that. That's really fascinating. But no, I don't think that was the case. I think it was more of a and he's said on the record before, it's my job to cover, not tackle.
That's not great.
No.
I agree it's his job to cover, not tackle, but you also your job is to be a teammate.
Your
and if a guy's coming your way, you got to tackle.
Right. And I think he was concerned about tackling with an AC joint injury. So I think that's all that was, but now you've got theories in my head. I should put on my Aaron Rodgers patented tinfoil
Don't do that.
hat.
You're going to get sued.
How good is that? All right, Packers favored by 3.
Yeah.
Do they win by bigger than that?
Yeah, I think that they win by 10. I mean, the wild card here that would give you concern as a Packers fan would be it's a young team.
Yeah, and they've been wildly inconsistent.
Right. They almost blew a game to Carolina. They could be feeling themselves again after beating Minnesota. I don't know what to make of Minnesota. They had a good defense for a while, but the last 3 games, now they're giving up 30 points a game. Yeah. Obviously, Minnesota, there's a motivation factor. I will say this. For Minnesota, I think they were just kind of cooked mentally. You're rolling out there with a rookie QB, and I think just again, the Packers played, the Packers maybe won the game because Minnesota didn't show up, but they kicked the crap out of them because the Packers showed up and played really well. So the Packers went out and executed. So I'm not saying the Packers would have won that game regardless. Maybe it was a blowout because when you get down and you don't feel like you got a shot, you might just kind of.
And Jaron Hall.
That's what I mean. Like you got a rookie QB, your defense is like, what are we doing here? Now the Packers are up. Now they're piling on, which just happens in the NFL. It's not a specific. The Packers won. Like I'm not knocking that win. It happens sometimes. You just feel like, oh, we're cooked.
Remember, this is respectful. We're okay.
Right, but and so I just want people to that's not ripping that win. But you could make a case that the Packers could be feeling themselves afterwards, or how good is that win? I don't know how good the Bears are. The Bears were beating Cleveland, and they blew it. The Bears have beaten the Bears.
Same with Detroit.
Justin Fields threw 4 touchdowns against Denver, and the Bears still lost that game.
Yeah,
they had a 90% chance of winning. The Bears, Justin Fields threw 4 touchdowns in the game twice this year. And they forgot
about that Denver.
But they had 3 games this year with a 90% chance to win, like halfway through the 4th quarter, and they lost those 3 games.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So
Bears doing Bear stuff.
Yeah, all right. It's just that's why I think the Packers will win this unless they just don't show up.
All right, last question for you, and I am officially eliminating the respectful tag.
Okay,
this is in all disrespect. You spent the entire offseason entering this NFL season comparing Jordan Love to Mitch Trubisky.
Yep.
Are you ready to say Jordan Love is a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky?
No.
How?
Mitch Trubisky had a hell of a first year as a starter. First full season as a starter. And he won the division. And his team, I think, scored more points per game as a QB.
But Jim, Jordan Love has more yards and more touchdowns than any Bears quarterback has ever thrown in a single season.
Yeah, but Mitch Trubisky...
He's outperformed that,
right,
statistically.
but this isn't stats thing. Russell Wilson's having a hell of a statistical season.
I don't know if that's true.
My whole point is, sure, that's fine. Jordan Love's better than Mitch Trubisky. My whole point is that, like, is he Baker Mayfield? Is he Russell Wilson?
Oh, hold on. You can't just breeze over that. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Mitch Trubisky was not a good quarterback.
Okay, good.
Like, that was one of the massive screw-ups in NFL history.
Justin Fields, Caleb Williams, or Jordan Love? If you had your pick right
Caleb
now.
Williams. And I think Packer fans...
Mystery box.
And this is we talked about this as Primetime's... I talked about this before the show with Primetime. Packer fans, if you really had to look it in the eye, especially if you believe in Matt LaFleur, you take Caleb Williams over Jordan Love because you don't have to pay Caleb Williams. Would you rather have 4 years, $40 million of Caleb Williams, or $47 million per year for Jordan Love?
Okay, so you're making it a contract thing, which I understand.
But that's the whole reason for it.
But when you see the potential and you have no idea, right? We thought Bryce Young was going to be a good quarterback. He's had a horrible rookie year.
No, well, here, Bryce Young, plenty of people said he is the smallest NFL starting quarterback, not just height, but weight, since Jim McMahon in 1985. Like Caleb Williams is 6'1", 6'2".
Didn't Jim McMahon win the Super Bowl that year, though?
But that was 1985. Nobody else has played at that size.
It's 40 years ago, yeah.
Caleb Williams, 6'1", 6'2", but he's 216 pounds. It's not just like Bryce Young, he's me. I am 6 feet tall, 195 pounds, and I am actually way more than Bryce Young. Could you see? He looks like a child out there.
Please tell me you did not just compare yourself to Bryce Young.
Physically, I'm more impressive than Bryce Young, is what I'm saying. You are too.
Oh, my God. Well, I am 6'4". I got quarterback height.
But you could just look at C.J. Stroud.
Did I say 6'4"? I'm 6'3". I'm compensating.
You're out in the world. You're gonna add
I'm a single man.
Yeah,
I might just add an extra inch.
Isn't that a thing that happens now? You just add an inch. Who's measuring you?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you fluff up your hair a little bit.
I want to go on a date with a lady, and I want her to break out a tape measure. Oh no, that wasn't the end of the sentence.
Where?
It's Jim Rutledge. You hear him on Rutledge and Hamilton weekdays 4 to 6 on ESPN Madison. Thanks, Jimmy. Go Pack, go.
Sure.
Good end of that. All right, let's transition right into to what Strouf learned. And Ryan, I want to bring you in on this because it's a good one. It's a doozy. So what day is it? I'm the holiday weeks always screw me up. It's Wednesday. So Monday night, New Year's Day, I popped into work really late. It was like 10 o'clock at night. It was almost halftime of Washington, Texas.
Oh, okay.
In the college football playoff semifinal.
So it was midnight, basically.
Yeah, I mean, East Coast.
Yeah.
Just about. But I was watching the game. I was sitting in the room you're sitting in.
Okay.
And doing some work. And I had the game on the TV. And I'm just cranking out work on one of the computers back there. And all of a sudden, I get like an Xbox like notification on the work computer.
On the work computer.
That somebody had. So if you play video games, you'll be familiar with this. That you got like an award, right? Like you did something in a video game and it gives you a reward or an award or whatever. It happened once, and about 2 minutes later, it happened again. I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
What games were they for?
Fall Guys.
Fall Guys.
Yes, fun game actually.
I mean, that's the heck of a COVID game.
But nobody's at my place. So I know it's not my Xbox. So I'm like, who the hell is logged into Xbox on a work computer? So I click the notification, and it brings up like a full-blown Xbox application on our desktop back there. Right? I know. I didn't know that was possible. And I looked at the username for said Xbox app, and the username was, and I quote, Lactation Boy. Lactation Boy. So do you have any guesses of anybody from ESPN Wisconsin who Lactation Boy could be?
Is this a subtle allegation at someone sitting in this room right now?
No, I do not think it's
Is this an allegation at the person who usually sits in this room?
No, I don't think it's Jesse Nelson either. I found out who it was.
No, I was saying who usually sits in this room during this time.
Oh, Hunter Vaughn. No, not Hunter Vaughn either. No.
I'm just thinking of people who would be playing Xbox a lot. Hunter jumped to my mind.
Yeah, that's fair.
Same with you.
Yep.
So if it's neither of you, then I really am lost.
Lactation BOI, by the way, is how they spell boy. Lactation Boy with some numbers at the end.
How many digits?
It is our friend. I think it was 69420. Lactation Boy 69420. It was
69. I like that number.
Who was that? Giannis?
That's Giannis. Was it Giannis's account?
It was not Giannis. He is not Lactation Boy 69420. It was none other than who we dub as ESPN Wisconsin's most interesting producer, who also has a third nipple, Alex Gravatt, who you hear me with on Green Bay Every Day in the Green and Gold Fix podcast feed. So what I learned is Alex Gravatt's Xbox username is Lactation Boy 69420.
Well, now it does really make sense because he is 3-Nip G. So if there's anyone's going to be Lactation anyone, it would be him.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. So there you go. That's what
you learned.
That's what I learned over the holiday weekend, and I just wanted to share that story with you because it was like 10:30 on New Year's Eve or New Year's night.
Yeah,
and I'm just like trying to get some work done. I'm still hungover from the night before, and I get Xbox notifications like, you played a game. I was like, who is this? Lactation Boy 69420. Who the hell is that? So there you go. There's your story for the day.
Can I say what I learned?
Yeah, go ahead. What'd you learn?
I would say that you should never trust Alex Strouf when he says everything is set. All you have to do is press go. That's what I would say.
You're a dick. That does it for us today. Hunter Vaughn returns Friday. Believe Jim mentioned her as we were recording. Courtney Cronin from ESPN, who covers the Bears for ESPN. You see her on Around the Horn, hear her all the time on ESPN Radio. I think she's going to join us Friday. We're just hashing out the details on how we make that work. I want to get another pulse on Bears fans because they're so fascinating to me. And Courtney does such a great job covering the team. And I want to dive into the piece Jim referenced as well of Justin Fields being so enjoyed in that locker room. So Courtney Cronin, I believe, is going to join us Friday to preview that one ahead of the second annual Win and You're In game for the Green Bay Packers in Week 18. Hopefully next Monday we are celebrating a Packers playoff berth for Jordan Love, which if the Packers win on Sunday, I'm telling you this almost a week in advance. The Packers win on Sunday, I will be awful on Monday. If you're a Packers fan, you'll think I'll be great. But I will be awful to the other 31 fans or 31 teams that have fans that watch the show. You will hate me. I will be spewing garbage about how the Packers might win the Super Bowl if they win on Sunday. Because all you got to do is get in. Except that they'd lose by 40 points to the 49ers in the divisional round. But we'll focus on that next Monday. Well, I'm still realist, I will admit that. All right, that does it for us today. It's Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf. We'll talk to you on Friday. Peace.